Okay, Jerry is going to gavel the meeting open, and then I will kind of go through the agenda on behalf of the commission. Go ahead, gavel us open again, Jerry, please. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Ray is here pro tem in the senior center, and Troy Boucher is on Zoom, as well as Tyler Bush is on Zoom. The other planning staff here are Tammy Dinas, who will be taking public comment on the call-in phone and our minutes of the meeting. Our public comment call-in phone number is 237-6120. Also, Jeanette Beeg is here helping check people in to the County Zoning Commission meeting room at the Senior Center. Monica Plecker is running our Zoom meeting for us. And then, of course, we have Community 7 Television broadcasting us live. So right now is the time for anyone who wants to provide public comment on anything not on the agenda this evening. And they can call in at 237-6120. We have no public attendees this afternoon. So while we're waiting for people to call in if they want to, we'll just run through the, I'll make a presentation to the board and answer their questions. Tonight's hearing is about the updated zoning map and the administrative procedures section in the new county zoning code draft. So while we're still waiting and not hearing the phone ring, I am going to share my screen. And start the slideshow for tonight's presentation. And we're going to duplicate the slideshow. Okay. So tonight we're going to go over the zoning map update, which is required because we changed a lot of the zoning districts, updated them from what they are now. So we have to place all the properties in the county zoning jurisdiction within one of those new zone districts. And then the administrative procedures section, which is how we process applications for permits, fences, signs, zoning, compliance permits, and then also variances, zone changes, and special reviews. So again, all of the work that the Project Recode has done is based on adopted growth policies of the county, including the 2008 growth policy and the 2016 Lockwood growth policy. And the steering committee set forward guiding principles for the work of Project Recode in January of 2018, focusing on 8 lenses, so to speak, that we looked at code as we drafted and redrafted. So on the screen here on the left are the existing zone districts, and our zone maps are color coded. So we have about 33 zone districts right now. We're consolidating and compressing and making sure we got all the right zoning districts in the new code, and so we have less in the new zone district and map. And that legend is on the right-hand side of the screen here. So only a few of these are going to be available throughout the county. Some of them will be available only in Lockwood. So when we did the zoning map update, we developed a method to equate existing zones to new zone districts. And that was based on the type of character and the type of development and uses allowed in the current zone and in the proposed zone. So most of the R96 zones out in the county will become the new neighborhood 4 or large lot residential suburban development. So these lots can be up to an acre in area, and they're all over the county. We'll look at some maps a little later in the presentation so you can see where those neighborhood 4 districts are showing up. Now, as I said, there's an exception to this, and this is over in Lockwood, where we have County Water and Sewer District. So in Lockwood, you could see some neighborhood 3, which is smaller lots, still suburban residential neighborhoods, or a neighborhood 2, or a neighborhood mixed residential zone, depending on the existing use and the current zoning. But these are our urban density zone districts, and we're reserving those for use only in where we have a county water and sewer district existing. Most of the residential 15,000 zone districts are going to either go to that N4 zone or the rural residential 1 zone, which is a zone district that is for residential uses from 1 to about 3 acres. So if it's over an acre, then it would be an RR1. If it's less than an acre, probably an N4. So most of the agriculture suburban zone districts are going to be either the rural residential 1 or rural residential 3 zone, and that will depend on the size of the lots. Most of the agriculture open space zones will go to the new single agriculture district, or if they're less than 10 acres, they could be an RR1 or an RR3. The community commercial zoning that we have out in the county is going to update to either the general commercial C3 or the heavy commercial CX, depending on the use. Again, that is, in Lockwood, there will be an exception. Some of those community commercial zones may update to a corridor mixed use zone that is an urban level zone district. The highway commercial zone is going to update to the heavy commercial district, or in some cases, depending on use, the light industrial zone, or I1. The entryway zone districts, both in the city and the county, could update in the county to the general commercial, heavy commercial, or light industrial. But in Lockwood, those entryway zones could update to corridor mixed use 1 or 2, or even neighborhood mixed use. The heavy industrial zones will update to the heavy industrial district. It's very much the same as the current heavy industrial district. It has a new letter designation of I2. We also followed good planning practices when updating this zone map. So we're trying to change zone districts along the rear property lines and at alleys instead of across the street from each other. We're going to try and match those zone districts that are across the street. Corner parcels can have more intense zone districts rather than mid-block parcels. And the residential zoning equals neighborhood in the county, just like it does in the city. We will try and reduce nonconformities wherever we find them and where it's practical to do so. So here's our current map, very colorful, lots of different residential zones shown on here, but we're reducing those down in the county to only 5 choices for a rural or county residential zone districts. So let's take a look at some of the maps. Here is a section of the map on the far northwest edge of the zone district. The green line on the map is the city limits. So there's the bright yellow, which is residential 9600, is showing up in the annexed parcels of land that are those single-family zone districts. But you'll notice that this paler yellow is showing up outside of those city limits, and that's the N4 district. We also have the rural residential 1 and 3 shown here, and then those 10-acre parcels are going to show up as agriculture zone districts. Here's another example on the far northeast part of Billings towards the zone boundary. This is north of the Heights. So we have, again, this neighborhood 4 zoning district. We have the rural residential zone. We have some agriculture zone in here. And then we have this rural residential manufactured home zoning. So these are large lots, but they're zoned for manufactured homes on those large lots. And then outside the city limits, we have some heavy commercial zoning here based on the intended uses out here. But we also have some general commercial that's this lighter shade of brown. Then in Lockwood, you'll see that we start to see some more different types of districts. And so the corridor mixed use 1 and the corridor mixed use 2 is showing up. We have the N3 zone district in Lockwood, where we don't have it in other places in the county. But we still have plenty of those N4 parcels, and of course some of the ag parcels out here that are not yet developed and may not be, based on where that water and sewer district is going to expand to. But we have the Lockwood schools here, and then some more dense residential manufactured home zoning, and those apply to those mobile home parks that we have in Lockwood. Then back towards the west end again, a little further south, we have lots of agricultural land. In fact, if you just counted acres, in both the Yellowstone County zoning district, the largest acreage of zone district is agricultural, because we still have a lot of active agricultural land out there. So you'll see that there's the neighborhood 4 zone district, and this is the new Meadows subdivision at 48th and Central. Seeing that little church parcel there at the corner, that's zoned public 2. But in the city, we have the brighter yellow, the neighborhood 3 zone district. Ben Steele Middle School is a public 2 zone, as well as the church that's across the street. So all of those zone districts are coming together on our zoning update map. So last but not least is our administrative procedures. And this, as I said, covers everything from permit reviews that are just by the staff, all the way up to zone changes and planned neighborhood developments, as well as appeals of those administrative decisions by staff. So in our new administrative procedures section, we wanted to use charts and flow charts and process charts to show how any type of application goes through the approval and review process with the county and county staff at the planning division. So this is a sample here of a flow chart that shows what comes first, then next, and what tables to refer to in that draft code section. So, as I said, we like to use charts. So this chart shows you what processes are required, labeled R, which ones are optional, labeled O. And of course, there are some procedures for different applications that are just not required. So for example, we're not going to have a public hearing when someone asks for administrative relief from a particular zoning requirement. But we're going to require public hearings and notices and neighborhood meetings for special reviews and for zone changes in the county. Right now, we only require neighborhood meetings for zone changes, but we're kicking that up a notch and saying, you know, special reviews probably should also have a neighborhood meeting. So that's a sample of the chart that's in that administrative procedures section. So as I said, we're changing up the rules for special review uses. is no longer going to be considered an allowed use in the zone district where it is shown on the use table. It will be a special exception to the uses in that district. There will be more specific criteria to ensure that proposed use is compatible with the existing site and neighborhood, that it's consistent with the growth policy goals, that it doesn't endanger the health, safety, or welfare of the surrounding neighborhood, and that it complies with all of the site development requirements in that neighborhood. And we've expanded and clarified the list of areas or issues that could have conditions imposed on a special review use. And then also, as another safeguard for special reviews, that if the applicant doesn't act on an approval for over a year, that approval expires. It doesn't go with the land forever. And if that special review use is abandoned and not on that property for more than 6 months, the use would also expire. So there are some special review uses that are on the books that under our current rules could come back at any time. And that makes it very unpredictable. You're not sure what has been approved on the property next door, so to speak. So this is our final hearing with the County Zoning Commission. You will have a meeting on October 12th that will be an all online meeting to have a final discussion and talk about any amendments or changes or tweaks that you would like to see in the county draft that's going to the County Zoning Board of County Commissioners. That's October 12th for your meeting. The County Commissioners hearing to receive your recommendation will be November 10th, Tuesday, at 9:30 in the morning. The City Zoning Commission is holding a special meeting on October 14th where they will have a final discussion and make their recommendations on adjustments or amendments to the draft and forward that on to the City Council. City Council is scheduled to receive that recommendation on November 9th, Monday night at 5:30. And I'd be happy to take any of your questions, Jerry or Troy or Tyler. If you have any questions on tonight's presentation, I can certainly pull up additional maps if you'd like to zoom in closer on a particular property or an area. Okay.
Creative relief. Could you explain that briefly? What that would entail? Is that something new or something that's been there all along?
It is something new, and it has more to do with the, kind of the site development characteristics in certain zone districts. So, for example, some of the mixed-use zoning districts have a build-to line or a minimum transparency requirement or a roof pitch or a roof line requirement on the building. So in order to not, to give the flexibility to that part of the code, we said if you want to, you can ask the planning director for administrative relief that lets you vary a little bit from that requirement. But it's capped, I believe, at maybe a 2% adjustment from the requirement. And then beyond that, you would have to go get a variance from the Board of Adjustment. So right now, the only administrative relief that we have on the books, so to speak, is under the landscaping code. We used to have that in the county, but that was removed last year. There is some administrative relief in the new county landscaping code, Also, it lets you vary a little bit, meet the intent of the code without having to go through a formal variance process. But once you pass a certain percentage variance, then you have to go get that approval from the Board of Adjustment.
Well, thank you. I have one follow-up. When I first served on the City Board of Adjustment back in 2005, my very first hearing was the infamous pool cover.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyway, given if that scenario were to come back, something like that, is there anything in the code that would give some flexibility now for that scenario where the person wouldn't be having to get a variance that was permanent with the property?
Right. That would be one scenario that could be considered as administrative relief.
Particularly since it was a temporary situation for Mr. Dykeman. And I think that pool cover is gone. It's no longer there. So, excuse me. Even though the variance runs with the land, I just hope nobody ever takes advantage of it again and makes it permanent. Excuse me. Tyler, any questions? Okay. Mr. Ray, I don't think there's anyone else on the Zoom call, so we can take some phone calls from the public at 237-6120 to ask about the map and the administrative procedures. And we'll wait a minute for that. As I said, County Zoning Commission will convene again on October 12th. In the meantime, I'm going to be sending you the whole code. I know we've given it out to you in pieces and parts throughout the series of public hearings, but we've been asked by others as well from the public who'd like a copy of the entire draft code in one document. So we can definitely send that to you to make sure that anything that you want to go back over, so for example, administrative relief, you want to look for that in the code, that you can certainly do that between now and October 12th. And I'm also going to encourage the public to send in their comments or concerns by email, by US mail, and phone calls to us. So we make sure that all of those public comments are available to the County Zoning Commission and City Zoning Commission when they do their meeting on their recommendation to the governing bodies. And it doesn't look like we have any phone calls. So unless there are other questions, this will be a wrap for the County Zoning Commission. Thank you, Tyler and Troy. You can gavel us closed, Jerry.
Closed.
And we're done.